Hey, so I'd like to do a review of this book. It's the Journals of Anais Nin. I just finished reading this book a few weeks ago, and I really liked it. A couple things to point out about this book is that it is written like a journal, so it's not written in typical kind of like elegant literary fashion. So it's almost like just coming from her own, just basically as she would write it in not totally basic language, but very like less than elegant language. And I think it's a really good book, and it kind of portraits a lot of people in her life, especially Henry Miller. So if you're a Henry Miller fan, this is definitely a good book to read about her thoughts on him and a few other people like Antonin Artaud and psychotherapist that she was seeing throughout the book, as well as another psychotherapist and Henry Miller's first wife, June. And it's interesting because, I think if you asked someone what makes a good book, and I think you would get a very different answer from a lot of different people. And I think there's a certain type of person or a certain type of reader who would like this book more than others. Whereas people who are looking for more genre fiction and things like that probably won't like this book so much because it's very autobiographical. Obviously, it is her journals and what goes on in her life. And that being said, because it is autobiographical, some things in it are kind of not so, she's kind of fickle throughout the book, and her opinions of people change. Like when she spends time with her father, she just admires her father so much, but when she's alone, she dislikes him. So she doesn't have steadfast opinions of people, and throughout the book her opinions of people change. Whereas in a typical fiction book, usually the character is pretty steadfast and their personality is consistent, if that makes any sense. So it doesn't totally read like a normal fiction book, although it is very typical of Anais Nin in the sense that her opinions are very analytical as far as like character sketching and descriptions of people and portraits of people and whatnot. So it's a very interesting read. The type in this book is very small, and it finishes in about 369 pages, which makes it a fairly lengthy book based on how small the type is. And at the end, there's kind of like a glossary. So if you feel like looking for something specific that comes up in the book and you can't remember exactly where it is, you can find it. So I thought this book was excellent, to be honest, because I'm a big fan of Henry Miller and like autobiographical fiction. I'm also a big fan of Anais Nin, and I feel like that Anais Nin was probably one of the most influential writers to me, particularly when I was writing my first book. And in terms of turn of putting a sentence together, I feel like my writing kind of reflects her writing a little more than other autobiographical writers like Bukowski or Kerouac or Henry Miller. My writing doesn't really sound like that so much, but she writes in more of a traditional type of writing style, which is elegant in her fiction work, but it's less so in this book. But that being said, it's probably one of the most honest books of hers that isn't specifically written for a fiction audience, if that makes any sense. So it is a little different than her fiction work. And from what I understand, there are several volumes of these, and her journal writing lasted pretty much her whole life. She continued writing these. So this one starts from about 1931, I think, 1931 or 32. 32. So just wanted to add one little last thing. So I really like this book. Check it out. And Bolero Bird is coming out with a new book. It's called Poor Pretty Creature. It's by Sierra Swin, and it's a vampire fiction. So check it out. It's from Bolero Bird, and it's available now on pre-order. And that's about it.